Yo guys, I've got a spark which I'm going to use to ignite the fire for a brand new video here on the channel. The first video of which is going to be featuring my new setup. Now you might notice I have a bit of a limited palette up here, and that's purely because I have moved into my accommodation at Lincoln University. So that's where the different setup comes in. I sure hope you guys like it, because I like the fact that I'm able to have my Skylanders as limited as they are in the background right there. So naturally, when I moved into my Lincoln accommodation, I couldn't bring every Skylander with me. I had to pick and choose. And another key problem with that was that it took up so much time and so much of my schedule, which is why the uploads have been rather scarce as of late. Like this upload in particular was meant to come out last week, but I was unable to finish it due to this sheer workload I had on me due to needing to gather everything together for said moving into Lincoln University accommodation. Yeah, that's a bit of a mouthful right there, but regardless, the video is finally here, and I tell you what, the person I'm collaborating with is very excited about that, because today I've finally gone around to the top 10 Skylanders soundtracks, and now we're talking about any soundtrack from any of the Skylanders games, so naturally the entirety of the franchise is taken into consideration, except for the copyrighted soundtracks. Get them out of here! But as I digress, everyone say the phrase that I have seemed to need to use every single video. When it came to this top 10, I'm going to be honest with you right here, I was pretty scared, because if I was going to do top 10 soundtracks, I wanted to do it right. And unfortunately, I'm not a huge expert on music, but I do have enough of a taste to pick out 5 personal favourites. But I had no idea what to do for the other 5, so naturally, that's where my collaborator comes in. We have the master of music himself, a YouTube channel notorious for analysing Skylanders music to the greatest quality in the entirety of the platform. Please welcome my collaborative guest, Judas.
One word, Ignite. Only one word. Finally. So, a person called Ignite the Fire asked me about my top 5 favorite Skylanders music pieces of all time. Well, when he did this, I felt like this. Hello everyone, Judas here, and I'm here today to present you my top 5 Skylanders music pieces of all time. Well, there are so many great, phenomenal, fantastic Skylanders music pieces out there. Oh, it was so hard to choose, well, 5, or only 5 from I don't know how many, but I managed it, and that's why I present you today my top 5 Skylanders music pieces of all time. And well, let's start with number 5. Surviving Motleyville is a fantastic piece that always awakens really great Western feelings in me. I mean, I like Western movies and, well, of course, Western music, and it's just phenomenal. But the track simply has a great structure, a great structure. It's slowly getting more and more together, and it's great to watch. Wait, is it even possible to talk about watching when talking about music? Well, that's the question of today. Well, no matter. The piece becomes stronger and stronger and more exciting, and when this amazing voice comes in, oh my god, it simply gives this piece even more energy. Whenever I hear this, hey, I know that was a bad impression. I get in a really good mood, and that's great. Then at some point this melody of a piece comes in. I think this is the wind instrument that is playing it. It's getting even more better. I think the melody sounds fantastic, epic, and somehow, well, natural. It sounds like the piece has a deeper meaning or something. With Surviving Motleyville is also great because halfway through the track, goes in a completely different direction, only to slowly start building up again, and then with even more energy, even more energy. This is simply breathtaking.
Glad to see that my favourite level from Swap Force is being represented, especially for its soundtrack of all things, but regardless, for my number 5, I'm going to be kicking it off with another game that Vicarious Visions just so happened to develop within the Skylanders franchise, and that's going to be, of course, none other than Supercharged. And so I'm going to be kicking off this list without further ado with the Spellbook Library, more specifically the final land vehicle section of the levels, since, you know, building up to this, the tune is more relaxing, you know, kind of laid back, just is there to really hook you in and engage you and just make you feel at ease, because all you're doing is exploring a huge abandoned library. What's the worst that could happen? Sure, these books are cursed, and so there definitely is a blend and a contrast of the, of course, relaxing and yet curseful elements of the Spellbook Library incorporated into that main theme, which is very powerful in terms of the emotion it conveys, and does definitely hook you further into the level as you feel those emotions that the library wants you to feel, those emotions of, as I said before, relaxation, contrasted heavily with the themes of fear, or the emotions of fear even, due to the curse the library has. And so sure, that's great and all that, you know, that theme going into this final book, but then the final book comes in with its main theme in from that land vehicle section, and all of a sudden you're punched with that awe from it, because the amazing thing about this track you hear right now is the fact that it builds up. It just slowly but surely descends more and more into chaos, into destruction. You feel the wrath of the darkness as it gets stronger and more powerful, and you feel that desperation. It adds to the sense of urgency throughout the level, and it just really creates this dark atmosphere which is just so amazing to listen to, and it truly does invest you further in the amazing top-down cel-shaded graphics of the scenario. They could have picked a better soundtrack to match the visuals that are taking place. It's so well captured, and those are the reasons that I love this track so much, so in fact that I found myself almost completely speechless, and that is a rarity for Ignite the Fire right here.
My 4th place is taken by Vulcan Village. Why exactly the track with one end and for the Giants album, and not somehow the one from the 2D or the 3D world or the Vulcan Workshop one, you may ask? Well, the great thing about this one is that it sounds sad and happy at the same time. I mean, depending on how I feel or what I'm thinking right now, I always hear the song differently, and that gives the piece a unique, what do you call it when you can hear something over and over without sounding boring and the same? I know, you know what I mean, I hope so. Actually, no matter, it's just fantastic to listen to it, not only because Vulcan Village is my favorite chapter, what I'm going to talk about another day, but also because it has such a beautiful, wonderful melody. It also sounds very natural to me at first. It feels like birds are chirping or something like that, and it sounds fantastic and phenomenal. It also sounds totally inspiring, and as if it has a deeper meaning, and as I listen to it, I think about topics that I don't usually think about, which I think is even better. Writing a piece like this is a masterpiece, and Lorne should have at least received some kind of award for it.
Who are you and what have you done with Judas? I cannot believe that you have the audacity to take one of the greatest Giant soundtracks and put it as low as number 4. That's like me taking one of the best Skylanders Spyro's Adventure tracks and putting it as low as number 4. You know, a track like Empire of Ice, who would dare put Empire of Ice as low as number 4? Well, it turns out that's exactly what I'm doing, because this is where Empire of Ice stands. Now, this has such great memorability to it. This song really sticks with you outside of the game, and that alone is very powerful. But the actual, you know, musical instruments used, and of course them in combination with one another to actually construct this soundtrack, all of that, all in perfect harmony with one another, not only creates something amazing to listen to and something very memorable that sticks and lingers with you, but it just is naturally very fitting for the level it's placed in. You know, we're going around this Empire of Ice, so to say, the literal name of the level, and that's exactly what you feel when you listen to this track. It just has that kind of ice-type vibe to it. It's so great, in fact, that I'm struggling to even describe what makes it so great, and only the best music can leave you speechless in a manner like this. Therefore, Empire of Ice is coming in at number 4.
My number 3 has to be the Magic Elemental Area theme from Skylanders Giants. Actually, it's a remix from Skylanders, which I think is great because it has so much energy, and I think that although the Magic Area theme sounds a bit slower, it still has such energy. Not such an energy as Skylanders has, no, another one, a very own one, I think, and that's what makes it special for me. What does that mean? No, I mean, that is just one thing that makes it so special and great for me, because it also sounds simply magical. The instruments are so well chosen. This gong, this whoosh sound, and all the other things create such a unique and fantastic and a bit sad and so epic and really magical atmosphere. It's just dreamlike to listen to it and to imagine and go to other worlds. It is always a special experience to listen to this piece. Every time I think about something different, something new, and it inspires me totally. This is simply a masterpiece.
So Skylanders is actually my favourite Spyro's Adventure soundtrack, but since the Magic Elemental Gates that Judas put at his number 3 are effectively just a remix of that there track, as Judas was of course alluding to, I'm going to leave that out of my list in favour of more variety in my tracks, because that's what I love about the Skylanders soundtrack, really, the fact that it's as varied as it is. It has all sorts of different themes, and of course expressions through the music, and yet it all still feels in uniform. It all feels fitting for the franchise it's included in. I don't think there was a single track which of course Lon Balfe didn't approve of, and that he didn't feel like was fitting into this fantasy world, mind you, and my apologies if I butchered his name, the name of man, myth, legend. Regardless, with Skylanders not getting on my list, what's going to be my favourite track from Spyro's Adventure? None other than Lava Lakes Railway, of course. I love this track. It really does build atmosphere, and it draws some really strong emotions out of you, especially when you start to get to the more sad portion of the track, when you've noticed that your plans have literally been derailed by Glumshanks, and so you need to push the blocks into place. The soundtrack that plays over that truly gives you a sense of hopelessness, and because of that it immerses you further in the level as the atmosphere is built up, and not to mention the soundtrack itself slowly builds up to this moment. The fact that it's just so well incorporated with each and every element going into it is just what makes it on an overall scale so satisfying to listen to from beginning to end. You get that range of emotions, that perfect amalgamation of different instruments and elements to make what is a truly satisfying, immersing track.
Dual Axis Big Wig takes my second place. It is a very unique track which somehow always stood out for me. The depressing and slow and heavy and threatening, impressive, and dark and truly brilliant melody stays in your head and fits like a glove. There's also a certain danger and pressure that comes from it, and the pressure is also intensified by the constant beat in the background, or sometimes in the foreground. You also get a real factory feeling when you hear that, and when the piece gets faster, for me it has always calmer and faster segments, it gets even better. Even better. It sounds action-packed and simply epic, and the chorus in the background makes it even more epic and just reinforces this great atmosphere. But now, regardless of the fact that Relax's Big Wig is a unique and epic piece, it also means something to me. Cause normally I don't like this kind of music that much, but through this piece I've learned that I can like this kind of music too, and that can be good as well. And Relax's Big Wig is therefore representative for me that other kinds of music can also be good and I can like them. And I think that is an achievement.
I see that Judas is a huge fan of the Giant soundtracks, especially that of Drill X, and I myself am also a huge fan of the Giant soundtracks, so naturally my favourite soundtrack from Giants is going to be receiving the number 2 spot, and that's none other than Auto Gyro Adventure. So whilst I can agree Drill X is an amazing sound piece, what I love more about Auto Gyro Adventure is how it captures the world surrounding you. It's a very fast-paced level, so naturally the instruments are very, very fast-paced, and that truly adds to the pacing of this level, mind you, the sheer sense of speed you feel due to what you're listening to. It's such great emotion, and on top of that, the music just makes the world feel bigger. It somehow adds scale to it through the utilization of loud booms from the instruments and all, if that makes sense as to what I'm saying. And so naturally this tone brought through the music adds to the pacing due to its fast-paced nature, and it really captures the scale and the architecture of Velocity Vargas, because of course this isn't your regular Skylanders, this is a whole different area altogether with giant autonomous robots that have huge amounts of power to them. So all of that being all captured in one incredible track is what makes Auto Gyro Adventure an absolute treat to listen to from beginning to end.
And before I'm getting to my number 1 pick, the best music piece of all time, well, I'm going through some honorable mentions. Yeah, honorable mentions right here. Well, I'm normally not doing honorable mentions, but I thought, cause there are so many great music pieces out there, they all deserve to be shouted out. Well, that's why I'm going through some honorable mentions. Yeah, well, let's start with the Skylanders main theme. It's really great with all the build up, and yeah, I love it. Then with Rod Road, it has so good twists and it's truly epic. Then we have a Battle Ball Island main theme. It's just totally relaxing and fun. Swamp Village, well, the tension is phenomenal, and the build up, of course, as well. Then, well, the Sky Chest area from the Academy of Supercharged is just glorious. It's so epic, the core. Yeah, and last but definitely not least, the Swap Force main theme. It's fantastic. Well, yeah, it's the theme of legendary awesomeness. No, okay, and now I'm getting to my number 1 pick. The best Skylanders music piece of all time is Hidden Adventures. This piece is truly the best. If you listen to what I'm doing right now while I'm writing the script here, inside or behind the scenes information. No, just kidding. So I just feel totally free from all problems and worries, and I think that's what music should reach. Freedom. I can really immerse myself completely in this piece and imagine a world apart from ours. And that's what Hidden Adventures means to me. This piece creates a world for me. A world full of adventures, full of own peoples and cultures, full of magic. A A world that I can imagine and where I can be myself without caring what others think of me. It's a world like Skylanders. So it's not only that Hidden Adventures sounds glorious and breathtaking, it's also what it stands for, which makes it my favorite piece of music. Not only from Skylanders, but also in general. Okay, and that were already my top 5 Skylanders music pieces of all time. Thank you very much, Ignite, for having me on this Sky Chamber collab. I highly appreciate it. It was great to make this little top 5 here. Well, and now I need to know what your number 1 is. What do you think is better than Hidden Adventures? I mean, it's Hidden Adventures. It's the best music piece of all time. So, now, tell us. What's your number 1? I need to know.
A new day is dawning. Your moment is near. So top off your tank and rev up that engine. 'Cause we're kicking this thing into gear. You got the courage. You're so brave. You got the might. And so strong. You got the spirit of a champion. And you're not gonna flee from the fight. That's why we're supercharged with love. You got the passion. You got it. Yeah, you got the pride. Even in the unknown, you are never alone. You got all of your friends by your side. That's why we're supercharged with love.
I mean, come on, that's practically perfect. How can anyone not have Supercharged with Love as their number 1? The lyrics are just so impactful and memorable. The backing track on top of it really adds to the projection and the power of those lyrics, and overall it's so bad that it's actually good because it's sung so terribly, and yet at the same time that adds to the memorability and the shock value too, because it literally just comes out of nowhere like a fist smashing up a punching bag. It's so incredible. It gets me laughing every time, but on top of that you truly feel accomplished. It's the greatest reward anyone can ask for beating a video game. Supercharged with Love is perfection at hand and worthy of my number 1. Not really. Supercharged with Love is not really my number 1, though I do think it does make for a worthy honourable mention on my behalf, because when it comes to Superchargers, it does have my favourite soundtrack of the entire franchise. And while Supercharged with Love is a fine exception of that, the greatest example would have to be the Gladfly Glade's main theme. So, what's so great about this theme is that it takes everything that was great about every theme preceding it in this top 10, and it adds to it, it multiplies its awesomeness by 10,000, you could go as far to say, because this theme, the instruments that are combined with one another make for a really nice sounding tone. It draws you further into the further into the level, even is the word I was looking for, and that's all because this level is all about being shrunken down and being small, and this main theme has that feeling upon you. If you were to listen to this soundtrack without the context of the game, you would feel small, not hopeless, because there's still a vibe of hope and strength to the track, and these contrasting elements between that strength and that raw power, as well as the small in scale, is just truly what makes these emotions flowing through you so powerful. When you listen to the Gladfly Glade's main theme, it does make you truly feel like you're part of a level surrounding you, and when you listen to it by itself, like I said earlier, it has that feeling it should. It hits all the right notes, quite literally, and I adore this track, giving it the worthy number 1 spot over Supercharged with Love, no matter how perfect Supercharged with Love might be. And this is the perfect example of what makes Supercharged's track the greatest from the entirety of Skylanders franchise.